Okay, I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. If we could start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Cohen, will you be doing the roll calls for us this evening?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be acting as Ms. Skink this evening. Mr. Yoder will be acting for the law department.
Okay, great. Thank you. Would you mind doing the roll call for us?
Sure. Mayor Condrey.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Ms. Nenny.
Here.
Ms. Vittori.
Here.
Great. And I understand we have a presentation this evening from Butler County Transit.
And it looks like Mr. Dekovitz is not logged on. So if we want to move ahead and then
Sure.
we will.
Can you see me?
Oh, Mr. Dekovitz, you are there. Perfect.
Sorry, hanging out.
I believe we have on the Zoom line with us Matt Dekovitz, the Executive Director for Butler County Transit.
Good evening.
Matt, if you want to go ahead and get started, I've got the slides up for you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Dekovitz with Butler County Regional Transit Authority. I'm just here to give you a brief update on some strategic items that we wanted council to be aware of as we keep things moving forward with the transit system in Middletown. Next slide. Some of those items just want to brush through really quickly. I want to give you a brief background in case you're not familiar with our relationship with the city. I'll give you a quick update on pandemic operations, update you on our regional project, and then I want to talk about two strategic items for the city, commuter bus service and zero fare. So next slide. Just really briefly, the important pieces here, I put a lot of information on the slides. I know it's kind of a no-no, but I'm not going to talk about everything tonight. What is important is that we've been contracting with the city of Middletown as a partner since 2009 for supplemental route service and since 2013 for management services. The reason the partnership works is because the Butler County Regional Transit Authority makes the match that's required by the federal grant on a good portion of your grants that reduces the burden from the general fund. So by BCRTA putting in that funding, it's additional federal money the city is able to spend that normally they would have to put additional funding from the general fund into the transit account to spend those dollars. So that's what's important there. Next slide. Just real quick, as far as pandemic operations go, things have actually been pretty smooth. You're probably aware that the transit system did receive some CARES funding, which has been programmed with the transit grants for operating funds, which should get us through the next 2 years. We believe that's an estimate, of course, without any contribution from the general fund to kind of give the city a little bit of a break. I think the most important thing on this slide is that your ridership's only down about 14%, which is really pretty good compared to a lot of other transit systems and also BCRTA across the rest of the county. Nationally and in the county, we're seeing decreases in ridership closer to 50, 60, even 90+%. Which is consistent with the RTA, but you're only we're projecting 14% through the end of the year. Nothing else really exciting there. Everything is going pretty smoothly. We've been happy with that. Next slide. Quick regional project update. BCRTA is building a multimodal station and shared services facility in the city of Oxford. It's a partnership with Miami University and potentially Talawanda School District also. It's going to be adjacent to a potential Amtrak platform, so we'll be serving the passenger amenities for that facility as well. expecting to break ground sometime next year. We're in the process of hiring an architect right now. The reason I bring it up today, two reasons. The R2 that serves Middletown and Oxford will be served by this facility when it opens up. And additionally, we've been in front of council, I think about a year ago, when the city had committed to partnering to help us build this regional infrastructure by providing about $1.4 million in federal transit funding to the project. So next slide. That's part of the reason I want to talk about this first strategic objective. There are a couple of reasons that we want to talk about this today. The first one is probably that moving money between City of Middletown, your federal money, and BCRTA's federal money is very difficult because it comes out of two separate streams. One is kind of controlled by ODOT, one is kind of controlled by the Federal Transit Administration. It's not impossible, we've done it before, and that's what we had planned to do for your contribution towards that regional facility. Unfortunately, it's extra complicated. And again, not that we can't do it, but we have a proposal that we actually think will be a little bit smoother and work out a little bit better. That proposal is providing some commuter service to downtown Cincinnati from City of Middletown. Essentially, we're talking about Middletown Transit System taking over operations of the existing commuter bus service that runs into Cincinnati. Currently, this service exists, but it ends or terminates in Westchester and it doesn't come any further north. BCRTA pays for this service out of a portion of our federal grant funds. It's 8 trips to Cincinnati in the morning, 8 trips in the evening, all along I-75. What we're proposing here is expanding that route to City of Middletown so the city would have new commuter service into Cincinnati back and forth. Also operates a reverse commute component, which just means people can ride against the normal traffic flow. So if you have hospital workers, say at the Atrium, who live somewhere in Cincinnati or Hamilton County and need to get to Atrium in the morning, they would be able to ride the commute back. So that's certainly all possible. We're talking about upgrading the service with commuter style buses, kind of what you see in the picture, which is a little more comfortable experience for the rider, forward facing seats, Wi-Fi, power, those kinds of things. It's a very good service. It's very popular right now. It already pre-pandemic operated about 9,000 trips per month and up to about 11 or 12,000 at certain points in time when fuel rises. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And I'm moving very quickly. I'll give you a chance to ask some questions. I just want to be conscientious of everybody's time. But next slide, please. Couple of reasons we think this is a good fit. This will help us essentially move money. We're not really moving money. What we're going to do is transfer a burden from BCRTA to City of Middletown. So City of Middletown would be using grant funds to pay for the service rather than BCRTA using theirs. As I mentioned, it's difficult for us to move that funding around. Middletown is what we refer to as a small urban area. So those funds are limited to City of Middletown or another small urban area within the state of Ohio, whereas the funding that BCRTA uses is what they call large urban. And we split that pot actually with SORTA in Cincinnati, Warren County, Claremont County, Tank in Northern Kentucky. And of course that money we go through pretty quickly. It's in high demand, but it's a good fit because, you know, it's a good service. It gives us a chance to leverage money. I didn't talk about it, but you saw in one of the earlier slides. Middletown doesn't necessarily use all of your money every year. And that's because right now the city general fund, you don't put enough money in to match everything. And we haven't expanded any service necessarily. BCRTA is making our match on those additional pieces. The other reason this is a good fit is there is additional money available in the small urban systems in the state of Ohio. Essentially what Middletown receives is part of a larger pot that's available to other small urban systems. And that money consistently seems to be left on the table by Ohio's small urban systems. So this is an opportunity for the city probably to leverage some additional funding that is not available to them today and that other cities are leaving on the table. MTS, in fact, has already received an award for a portion of buses for commuter coaches to provide this service. ODOT and FTA have both signaled to us that there may be additional funding on the table for it. Also, whenever you drive your ridership up, your formula funding goes up. So, you know, it's good news. Next slide. You know, real quick, how would it work is, you know, we would put the service on the road. BCRTA would provide it in a similar fashion to the way we contract routes for the city right now. It would be operated under existing contract. We would purchase the buses on the city's behalf, similar to the arrangement we currently have. BCRTA currently pays Cincinnati Metro to operate this service. So essentially what we'd be doing is City of Middletown would be paying BCRTA to operate the service with the small urban funding. That's going to loosen up about $500,000 a year in large urban funding that BCRTA currently has committed, and we can take that and put that towards the regional facility or any other capital needs anywhere else throughout the county. So that's how that moving of money would work that we talked about in the past. I think I mentioned almost everything on that slide. Next slide. Important part of this is there's no general fund impact. This is being funded with Federal Transit Administration grant funding and BCRTA leveraging some opportunities. It's bringing additional money into the transit system and additional benefit to the city of Middletown and Butler County. Middletown gets new commuter service out of it with new equipment. BCRTA gets out of the obligation to fund that service with the high demand funding that we currently use. The other benefit is the city typically, again, doesn't spend all of its allocation of federal money. You guys leave a little bit on the table every year, which is fine. We can save a couple of years for a capital purchase, like buying buses or things, but we only replace buses about every 12 years. So there are a couple of years, and in the past, you have transferred that money to other small urban systems to BCRTA. In this scenario, we start leveraging all of the city's annual allocation of federal money, and you're not leaving any money on the table in the future. The other benefit of this is, it's an economic development tool to say, look, you got commuter express service into downtown Cincinnati. Next slide. So real quick, kind of the next things that you would see out of this, things coming up in the future. We want to make sure we got in front of you early. So if you have questions, we have an opportunity to answer them. But City Council would have to approve the bus purchase for the city. BCRTA would identify remaining funding for additional assets or buses that may be needed for the service, and we'd also identify other needs. And then we'd set up complete schedules, identify stops, finish the branding, and launch the service, which would probably take about 18 months is what we're expecting. That is the commuter bus service proposal. I can take questions now. If you'd like, I can talk about zero fare first. I know I'm moving very quickly, but
I had a question for you.
Go ahead, Tal.
Sure.
Was just wondering, will this be a contractual relationship or is this an ongoing relationship? I'm thinking down the road, if one party, doesn't want to continue in this arrangement, how does that end?
Yeah, for sure. Right now, the city's kind of in the driver's seat. Under our existing contract, city kind of gets to call the shots on what supplemental services you'd like BCRTA to operate on your behalf. Right now, we make a lot of those recommendations, and city administration signs off on those, council, if it is at that level. So you're really in the driver's seat for this. Our existing contract allows us to provide supplemental service to the city, maintenance services, bus purchasing services. We kind of threw everything in the kitchen sink in the last contract that you approved. But you really get to decide, what it is you want.
So it's more or less a year-to-year renewal type of situation?
It is. It has, I don't have it in front of me. I haven't looked at it in a couple of weeks, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, I think there's a mutual termination clause in it with a reasonable amount of notice, 60, 90 days, something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. It's an ongoing relationship with a termination clause if we deem it to be appropriate.
Mr. Dukovitz, I have one question.
Sure.
Thanks for the information. The commuter bus proposal, is that strictly like a Monday through Friday working hours, or is there a tourism component to it where Butler County residents would be, I don't know, going to a Reds game or an event on an evening or weekend?
Sure. So right now, the current proposal is just for weekday service, 8 runs, weekday mornings, 8 runs in the afternoon on weekdays. It doesn't mean we couldn't operate a weekend component. Of course, there's an operating cost to that. Obviously, we're talking about much smaller number of days. Certainly, sporting events and things are a component. There's some rules around operating that with the Federal Transit Administration. We can't charge higher fares. We have to run it on a schedule. And the reason for that is they don't want public agencies competing with charter businesses for that type of work, but there's no reason that if we had a schedule, we couldn't operate it. In fact, Tank in Cincinnati does do something similar for Reds games, I believe. And like I said, the plan is very conceptual right now. We're, we want to move the money for the Oxford facility, bring some service to city in Middletown. Once we can sharpen the pencil on all of those pieces and everything, there's lots of options on the table.
So similar to Mr. Mulligan's question, does this bus system connect to CVG in any manner?
So under the current proposal, it would not. It would run into downtown Cincinnati where there is a connection with Tank Airport, or I think they call it the 2X. So it is functionally possible. That is a conversation we've had internally about, does City of Middletown, Butler County need direct access to Hebron for Amazon, for airport? Again, it's an operating funding component. We believe that operating the weekday service is probably gonna, we're comfortable with that financial proposal. Adding service is gonna be additional money. And I think, the bigger the projection is, the more unsure we probably get of it at this point in time. But I think all those are things on the table. I mean, once the city has the assets and we have the operators and the infrastructure set up, it's simply making a schedule and figuring out how to fund those operating components. And like I said, we're comfortable with funding the operating component for the weekday service. I think beyond that, we need to dig a little bit deeper, but certainly those are all things that are on the table that would be well within the capability of the system.
Right. Yeah, I'd definitely be interested to see like hypothetical, theoretical, whatever scenarios of people, because I know that coming to and from CVG is definitely currently a hurdle.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that we could, commission an extra study or something. We're, again, part of the reason we're very confident about this is because the portion of the service from Westchester to Cincinnati already operates. So we're very sure about what the ridership is like, what fares would be like, what the operating cost is like, what demand is like. So we're very confident in that. When we start to get into some of these other things, we don't have historical data. And so we have to make a lot of projections, but it's certainly things we can do. It's just a little squishier.
So how many other communities operate commuters into downtown Cincinnati around us? And is it possible for someone currently to hop a ride from Middletown to that community and then downtown? How are people who want to get downtown doing that right now without this commuter line?
They're driving their single occupancy vehicle. They're the only commuter service that exists within Butler County is from Westchester to Cincinnati, what we would essentially be taking over or replacing. The proposal we have, terminates in Middletown. It would still include the Westchester component with a stop there because the ridership's so heavy, which again would be good for the city because ridership generates formula funding. But there are no other options right now. Cincinnati Metro does run some other express service into Claremont County, Warren County, and the extremities of Hamilton County. But right now, this is that's all that exists in Butler County, and there's nothing to Montgomery County either.
And have you received comments from current ridership that this is something that they are interested in? Is this something that we've surveyed with our current, population here?
Sure, we have not. We know that the downtown commuter service is very popular with the existing ridership. We surveyed them a couple years ago. Basically, they, what I recall of the survey was they would just like it to keep running. So we don't have a lot of data about expanded ridership and everything. We think it would be positive based on our current experience. This proposal is essentially, a lot of this is we believe it would be successful. Ridership is going to be as good as it is today or better. But it does drive a financial leverage component for the entire regional area as well.
We also think this has good implication for economic development and employer retention, because we can obviously tout this as a service.
I have noticed a general trend in our youth, like that they aren't learning or choosing to drive as early as perhaps we used to. So definitely something that could be interesting to see if that's a demographic that would probably be interested in using that more. I personally have commuted long distances regularly every day. I understand the value and benefits in many ways to it. Are you pitching this to other communities within Butler County? Are we the only ones? I'm just wondering how many stops we can expect the riders to have in the
Yeah.
end.
Well, this is really unique to you. So this, you know, again, the reason we're proposing this is because we believe this is a smart financial move for everybody involved. Like I said, because there's small urban money available to City of Middletown that BCRTA is not eligible for. I can't apply or ask for that money or receive that money. None of the large systems in the state of Ohio can. City of Middletown, along with some other small urban cities like Springfield and I'm struggling to think of the other ones right now, but that money is earmarked for those cities. And a lot of those cities leave a lot of that money on the table. So we're only talking to you about this right now because you have City of Middletown as a designated recipient for small urban transit funds, which makes you uniquely eligible for it. Certainly, I think, you know, if other communities wanted to participate and have stops, I think down the road, we probably need to talk about sharing some of the cost of that. But I think out the gate, you know, we just want to get the service started and make it functional. Like I said, right now, the only place that really stops is Westchester. So it would be an expansion and we'd want to retain that for the ridership and everything. But that's really the effect behind it. The other thing I'll say about it is, you know, we proposed it with large style commuter buses, which the only other place in Ohio that you have that is in Cleveland. So there's communities, you know, in Akron, Lake County, other places who operate service similar to this with equipment similar to this. But it really doesn't exist in Columbus and it doesn't exist anywhere else around Cincinnati right now. So it would definitely be a unique service.
Last question for me. Do we have a pickup drop-off location identified?
We do not have an exact location identified. Like I said, we're in the beginning stages, so we still have time to tweak this. I can tell you the conceptual plan does not involve coming into downtown just because of the time commitment. It would probably be something close to the 75 corridor. So Atrium, Town Mall, somewhere around 122 is probably what would make the most sense.
If I might add, I think our timing is really good because right now we're doing that complete redevelopment plan for the town mall properties. We have a partnership with the owner as well as Warren County, and the owner has already stated that he's very eager to see opportunities that might include additional bus stops. So I'm quite certain that we could work that out within that redevelopment plan. And it would also work really well for the kinds of things we're talking about, which would include destination stops as well as multifamily housing and other things. So it would be a big benefit and amenity to that new development, as well as connecting them to the urban hub of Cincinnati, which then in turn would make those things a lot more marketable as well. So really nice opportunity, I think, there.
Yeah, we'd have to definitely make sure we have a commuter lot planned and plenty of restaurants ready to take advantage of people on their way home from Cincinnati.
Yeah, absolutely. We have in the past, I can tell you Meyer has been very friendly to commuter service. They like having the bus in their parking lot. We've had other relationships with them and sort of other transit systems. I want to talk real quick if there are any other questions. I know I'm taking up a bunch of time.
I got one question about the
Susan?
bus. I think just as a clarification, I know there were $400-some thousand budgeted for 2021 associated with the bus. Is this the same budgeting, different budgeting?
I can tell you we haven't submitted anything
Sorry,
to the
this is
city.
a city question.
I don't remember at this point where that money was getting allocated. If I could get you a better answer to that.
Okay.
The plan from today would be, we're going to talk about this. You're probably looking at this for legislation sometime in January. And I'd be happy to come back to you with all those, exactly
Okay.
how we're budgeting that.
Was there not a big bus purchase?
Yeah.
Okay, there was an extra zero on the end of that one.
And some of it is for our normal service, and then we would have additional monies allocated towards these commuter style buses.
Okay, I just noticed that there was something about purchasing a bus. I didn't know if that was already
Yeah,
allocated. and
you
we
have a
planned
single
that.
bus replacement in the pipeline that I know we budgeted for next year. That is, I believe that is completely funded by federal money and state toll credits. But the money moves through the city. So, but that's for your regular service. That's just a routine bus replacement.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
wanna
Susan,
talk-
did you want to talk about zero fare real quickly?
Yeah, if we could talk quickly about the zero fare idea.
Yep, you bet. I just wanted to bring this up, put it in front of you. Again, I think this is a future legislation item, but we wanted to let you know. Next slide. BCRTA has eliminated fare on our fixed route and ADA services for a couple of reasons. We think it would be smart for Middletown to follow suit, but that is certainly up to you. We think it's a good tool to set apart Butler County and Middletown from other Midwest cities where businesses may be looking to relocate or start up. There's not a lot of people doing this right now. There's a little bit of a trend. You have been fare free since March just because of the pandemic. We suspended them so we could avoid contact with operators and our folks didn't have to count money. It reduces burden for low-income riders to travel to work, childcare, which can get costly, reduces learning barrier for riders. There's all kinds of great benefits to it. We've been doing it. I think the major thing to consider here that's important that you care about is that your fare revenue from these services is only about 6% of the total Middletown Transit System revenue. And when we eliminate it, if you want to go to the next slide, you can draw that off your transit grants. So whenever we draw money from the feds, we have to take your fares off first. So by eliminating fares, we just draw off the grants, and you don't have enough grant money to do that. So, quick impacts, will there be a revenue loss? No, you can draw it off your grants. Currently, your grant balances are in good shape, that it shouldn't be an issue for us to plug a 6% hole. We don't have a loitering issue that we can't control right now. We will recommend, a code of conduct policy. BCRTA is going to be putting one in place. We expect an increase in ridership. We expect a savings in the fare revenue collection process, which just gets really pricey between fare boxes, paying people to count money, deposit money, all those fun things. It adds up. We'd like the city to consider it. Like I said, BCRTA, the BCRTA Board of Trustees took that action on November 18th. They've eliminated it beginning in January, which is when our COVID suspension expires, and they're going to reevaluate it in 5 years. That's everything. Any questions I can answer about that? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everybody. I appreciate the time to speak with you this evening. Certainly, the folks at the city can answer your questions, but if anything is transit specific, I am happy to provide more information or appear again if you would like.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any citizen comments for this evening?
I did not receive any.
Okay, council comments. Let's go ahead and start with Miss Ninny.
Oh, all right. The advantage to showing up in person, I guess.
That's right.
Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and are kicking off the holiday season with cheer, regardless of everything that's happening. I think there's always an opportunity to bring light in the darkness. Specifically, I'd like to encourage all of our businesses in Middletown, whether your business is currently closed or open, to light it up and decorate for the holidays and show the city and our visitors how much cheer we have. I know that downtown DMI is hosting their First Friday event this Friday with the Merry Middletown theme that they do every year. Obviously, Kara's presence is very much missed, and so I think to honor her, this is something that would make her really happy to see and really happy to see that we're all being a part of. So I just want to encourage all of the small businesses throughout the city to decorate for Christmas and the holidays and join in on the cheer. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Moon, you're unmuted. We'll go with you next.
All right, yes, just one comment. I just want to mention to the small businesses in town, and I assume our city manager will address this in his manager comments, I would encourage you to apply for the CARES grants funding that we have available for businesses up to $10,000. We're going to be extending that deadline, and would just encourage anybody that needs some help to reach out to city staff and utilize those funds available. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Mulligan.
Thank you, Your Honor. No comments tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Vittori.
Yeah, just pushing a little further. I know a few people in the application had some questions with regard to the W-9 form, which you actually can go just to the irs.gov site and download a PDF and fill it in. It's really simple. And there was a question about the Duns and Bradstreet number. If you don't have one of those, I think that's fine. If you do, you can just include that in your application. And if there are any other questions, please do reach out to Ida Hawkins at the city, who has all the information. I know we're anxious to get more applications. I think we have less than 10. And I've heard a lot from businesses that are hurting and have been interested in grants that the city's been giving out. And so this is a great opportunity to you to get involved and be able to get some money during these difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no further comments this evening to add. Mr. Palaniuk, would you like to move forward with your city manager report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, city councilors. With regard to the small business economic assistant grants, we've had 2 different programs that were advertised, and the expiration dates have now passed. The first was our CDBG small business grant programs. We received 27 applicants in that particular program. We expect to make around 17 awards. So we will certainly take all of those who are not funded through that program and make certain that they then are looked at for the second program, which is the County CARES Act funding, the so-called SAVE grant, which stands for Support for a Vibrant Economy grant. As the councilman indicated, we did not get the kind of response that we had hoped for or expected. It's a little bit light. And in fact, at this point, we actually have more funding than we have grant applicants. So as a result, we've extended the time period for any small business in the city of Middletown and in Butler County in the city of Middletown who has less than 25 employees and who had any kind of economic hardship as a result of the pandemic to please apply for these funds. If you're retail, if you're a restaurant, if you're a bar, if you're any kind of small for-profit business within our community, if you have less than 25 employees, even if you only have 1 employee, that being a sole proprietor owner, you are likely eligible. And even if you have questions about your eligibility, please contact us. We want to make certain that all of these funds get out. There's $212,000. We think that on average, most people will wind up being eligible for something on average like maybe $7,000. So that's about 30 grants we'd love to make through this program. So please let everybody know that the funding is out there. We want to make certain that all of these funds get out. If there are any questions, there are some questions about how much financial information you have to provide. Really, if you have any sort of financial system that really tracks, your business, that's probably sufficient. It doesn't have to be, in any way grand or elaborate or audited statements or anything like that. If you have QuickBooks, if you operate in any manner, that's going to be enough. We just need to see that, in effect, you've been operating for a certain time and that you had economic hardship that resulted from the pandemic. So again, I hope that everybody that feels in any way they might be eligible, please apply for this. We'd love to see it. And other than that, if there are any questions, that would be my report.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Ms. Cohen, would you please present that for us this evening?
On the consent agenda this evening, you have for your consideration to receive and file Board of Health minutes from October 13th, 2020, to approve contract with EJ USA Incorporated of East Jordan, Michigan, in the amount of $1,565.47 each for fire hydrants with 4-foot 6-inch barrel and $1,672.01 each for hydrants with 5-foot even barrel for estimated usage of 15 of each size over the 2021 calendar year. To approve the purchase of upfit packages for 3 2020 Ford Explorer vehicles from Phoenix Upfitters of Middletown, Ohio, in the amount of $37,890, including installation. Request the approval for a contract with Capital Electric Line Builders Incorporated of Dayton, Ohio, for signal head and LED panel replacements at various intersections around the city in the amount of $48,702.11.
I move to approve the issues and actions set forth in the consent agenda.
Second.
Ms. Ms. Cohen, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Ms. Condrey.
Yes.
Next matter of the motion agenda.
Yes, thank you.
First matter is to authorize a contract with Optum or Stealth Partner Group for stop loss coverage in 2021.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Next matter is to authorize the transfer of property to adjacent property owners through the vacant side lot program. Address at 1511 Yankee Road for a fee of $500 to the Bethel AME Church.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the legislation. And, Ms. Cohen, would you like to present the legislation for us?
I
Oh, you're not
actually
actually.
have Mr. Yoder, but-
Mr. Yoder's going to do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight you've got 15 items on your legislative agenda for review tonight. 6 of which are proposed for passage as emergency measures, those being the first, second, and 7th through 10th items on the agenda. So before I get started, I just request council pass a motion waiving its procedure pertaining to second reading.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yoder, I was not able to hear that.
Me neither.
Thank you. Sorry, I left my mic off. I'll speed it up on that. But you've got 15 items on your agenda, 6 of which are proposed for passage as emergencies, those being the first, second, 7th, and 10th items on the agenda. So before I get started, I just request a motion waiving the charter provisions pertaining to second readings and effective dates. Sorry for the lapse on the mic.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days, and that those items of legislation be declared emergencies and read one time only.
Second.
Ms. Cohen, you call the roll for us, please?
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny.
Yes.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is ordinance number O 2020-83, an ordinance amending the downtown TIF district established in ordinance number O 2000-72 pursuant to Ohio Revised Code sections 5709.40, 5709.42, and 5709.43, authorizing the payment of a portion of service payments in lieu of taxes to the Middletown City School District and the Butler Technology and Career Development School District and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments? I do understand that we did contact the schools about this one, just for clarity for everyone's knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Cohen, will you please call the roll?
Or Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
You're muted, Amy.
Yes.
Mayor
Thank you.
Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Thank you. Second item is ordinance number O 2020-84, an ordinance authorizing Phase 2 of the contract with Uleman Chute LLC for the Lakeside Redirection Project and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Second.
Any comments?
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Third item is ordinance number O 2020-85, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business economic development grant with Marie's Crafty Hut LLC located at 2910 Town Boulevard. This is a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second. Any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen, please call the roll.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Fourth item is ordinance number O-2020-86, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business economic development grant with Francisco Salas Jr., Francisco Salas Sr., and Martha Salas for their property located at 1338 to 1344 Central Avenue. Again, a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Fifth item is ordinance number O-2020-87, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business economic development grant with Middletown Aquatics and more located at 1214 Central Avenue. Second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Sixth item is ordinance number O-2020-88, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation to improve and extend bicycle access along city streets. Second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second. Any comments? Maybe we'll be using our bicycles to get to the buses before no time.
good deal. Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Seventh item is resolution number R-2020-36, a resolution authorizing transfers from the Central Avenue Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Fund, 2018 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Fund, 2019 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Fund, and the Employee Benefits Fund to the General Fund for repayment of prior year advances and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask Finance Director Jake Burton if he would give us a little background and comment on this particular item, and then he'll also be doing the same for items 8, 9, and 10 as well.
Good evening. Is it red? Is it red?
All right, that's better. Okay, so on this first item, Resolution 2020-36, this is requesting advances that in prior years from the general fund to these funds listed. So this is paying back the general fund, so increasing the general fund by a total of $570,137. All of these are the first three, which are from the Central Avenue Sidewalk Curb and Gutter, 2018 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter, and 2019 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter, still have balances. So those will continue to come. So you will see all three of those again next year. The repayment from the Employee Benefits Fund, this is the final payment, which we'll get into with these next items. If you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and touch on each of them, and then happy to come back up if there's questions as we get to them. Resolution 2020-37 is an advance from the general fund to the 2020 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Fund. So this is something we do on an annual basis. We assess property owners. The city covers those charges for the sidewalk, curbs, and gutters, and then they will pay those back over a 5-year period on their property taxes. So this $1,254,000 will be repaid beginning in 2021 and then for a 5-year period. So we will eventually get all of that money back to the general fund just as we have these others. On Resolution 2020-38, this one's a little more confusing, I guess. So prior years in 2015 and 2016, council authorized advances from the general fund to the employee benefits fund that totaled $2 million. And that's when the employee benefits fund was obviously performing at a negative level each year. We've made significant changes both from the city's funding side and to the employee benefits, that we are now in a much better spot, having positive revenues exceeding expenses, which is a good thing. We have previously repaid $1 million. We made a $500,000 payment in 2018 and a $500,000 payment in 2019. And then Resolution 2020-36 is paying back an additional $316,430. So that leaves $683,570 remaining on the loan, technically. However, in 2017, those council members who were on council at that time will likely recall this. We deappropriated $453,000 and then also received a workers' comp refund of $230,000, of which was presented and agreed upon to be basically applied against that loan. In order to get that loan off of the city's books, Resolution 2020-38 essentially changes that portion of the dollars, $683,570, from an advance to a transfer. So we were planning for this, we knew about this, but this formally does it to get that advance off of the city's financials. And then Resolution 2020-39 has appropriations and deappropriations to the general fund of $184,500. So a net effect to the general fund of $0. This is allowing for us to cover a couple of deficits throughout a few line items, and also allow our fire department and police department to buy some additional equipment, utilizing savings they've had from vacancies and retirements throughout the year. And then there's an additional supplemental to the police grant fund. This is an additional spending. This is just cleaning up the budget based upon the grant dollars we've received. A $1 supplemental to cover a rounding error in our budget. And then a $225,000 supplemental, which is funding the municipal court an additional $225,000 this year. We've been monitoring that throughout the year. Included that on the monthly report each month, and now that we're at the end of the year, have a final number. We're projecting that this obviously will cover this year, but then also put us in a position where next year's budget should be in sufficient shape as well for this funding. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burton. Okay, that brings us to, okay, so we're on Resolution 2020-36 right now. correct?
36, we have first and a second, we're ready for a vote. As long as
Okay, any other comments then? I guess, no, correct? All right, thank you.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Eighth item is resolution number R 2020-37, a resolution authorizing a transfer of funds subject to repayment from the general fund to the 2020 sidewalk curb and gutter fund and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second,
Second?
any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ninth item is resolution number R 2020-38, a resolution authorizing a prior advance from the general fund to the employee benefits fund to be converted to a fund transfer and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second. Any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
10th item is resolution number R 2020-39, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, Ms. Cohen.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vittori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Thank you. 11th item is ordinance number O 2020-89, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Phoenix Safety Outfitters for the purchase of fire turnout gear and declaring an emergency. No action is requested until the December 15th, 2020 meeting.
Any comments, Mr. Palaniuk?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, this particular item would be a contract that would have us purchase fire protective turnout gear on behalf of the fire department, actually 81 full sets, so that as a result, each firefighter would then have 2 full sets of turnout gear. Comes from Phoenix Outfitters of Upper Arlington, Ohio. They were actually also asking for a bid waiver, but they're not on the ODAS contract. However, they actually are lower than that. They're some 42.85% less than retail. So we think it's entirely appropriate that the bid be waived in this case because they're by far the lowest price vendor. This was not budgeted, but is happening as a result of CARES Act transfers. We're not technically using CARES Act monies for this because we're using those CARES Act funds in the amount of $241,799 to go toward firefighter salaries. But as a result, we're then able to purchase this that we wouldn't have otherwise done. So while we're not technically using the CARES Act monies, the fact that we're receiving them allows us to do this on behalf of the fire department.
Great, thank you. Council, any comments or questions?
12th item is ordinance number O 2020-90, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Aclara Technologies LLC for the purchase of replacement equipment for the automated meter reading system and declaring an emergency. Again, no action requested until the December 15th, 2020 meeting.
All right, Mr. Palaniuk, do you have comments?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, some years back, the city changed out all of its water meter with the automated reading system. The system that was put into place was an Aclara system, so it's a sole producer. So we're now at that point in time that we're starting to see the need to begin replacing some of these units. This would waive the bid for purchase and purchase from Aclara some 2,688 separate meter transmission units. They would be installed for 2021 at a cost of $95 per unit, or a total of $255,360. These funds are budgeted within the water and sewer capital budget.
Any comments from council? Do you happen to know how long those last?
Scott, what's the useful life on these things?
Okay, thanks. Just kind of a curiosity point there. Thanks.
No other questions. Item 13 is ordinance number O 2020-91, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the 2021 urban paving program and declaring an emergency. No action requested till the December 15th, 2020 council meeting.
Great, Mr. Palaniuk?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, this would be the contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation for our 2021 urban paving program. It's the city's share of the resurfacing project of Verity or State Route 73 from Germantown Road to the north city limits. The city would be paying its cost, which is a percentage of the overall construction, at $864,137.22. And those funds are coming out of the budgeted 2021 General Capital Fund. The work is to be done in summer of 2021.
Great, any other comments or questions from council? Okay, Mr. Yoder.
14th item is ordinance number O 2020-92, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business economic development grant with Tri-County Management, Inc., located at 1224 Central Avenue. This is the first reading.
Great, Mr. Palaniuk?
Madam Mayor, in this case, this would be requesting a small business economic development grant in the amount of $10,000 to the recipient Tri-County Management for the building and area at 1224 Central. It actually would be doing alley improvements next to that building. The cost of fencing and brick pillars is $4,450. The pavers are $9,800. Combined, that total is $14,250. This would have $10,000 toward those costs. This grant would be contingent on it getting Historic Commission approval. This is the home of the Merkel's Tavern. This would assist that particular business to provide for some outdoor dining. They made some significant investments in the building already, and this would continue to allow them to further enhance and expand that business.
Council, any questions or comments?
Mr. Palanick, it's my understanding that they had previously applied for and were accepted to sort of designate that alley as usable space for the building. I don't know if you have any of the history on that, or...
I don't, but either Chriselle or Scott maybe has some background on that particular alley, or what happened in that regard. Scott,
I want to say it was maybe a year or more ago that they applied to redesignate that as a...
It was actually vacated.
Vacated.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So the alley's vacated and essentially half of it goes to Tri-County Management and the other half will technically belongs, I believe, to the Lewises because that's the Grandpa Joe's building. But Dave Stryker has a great relationship with the Lewises and they're supportive of the alley redevelopment and they're going to be working together for that.
That's good to hear. I've been through the building and the work that he's done on the upper floors of that old FOE is really incredible. I just want to commend him for all of the investment that he's made in that building and in our downtown.
Great. Any other comments from council? Okay, Mr. Yoder, one more, I believe.
Yes, the 15th and last is ordinance number O-2020-93, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business economic development grant with Cedarbrook Acres LLC located at 1221 First Avenue. This is a first reading.
Mr. Palanick.
Yes, Madam Mayor, also a small business economic development grant request. This one in the amount of $10,000. Technically, the recipient is Cedarbrook Acres LLC for the building at 1221 First Avenue. The business is Center for Mindful Healing. They will be replacing the roof on that building at a total cost of $20,189, and this $10,000 will go toward that cost. They provide clinical services there to some 10 to 12 patients per day. They have, I believe, already invested some $455,000 in the business, and they have plans to hire up to additional 20 jobs by 2023 and ultimately try to get up to almost $1 million in payroll. So this would help support that ongoing business.
Great. I had the opportunity to visit there, and they are doing incredible things. I'm very impressed, and great community partners, and I'm glad to have them. Any other comments from council? Okay, that leaves us with a vote to go to executive session. Under the authority of ORC 121.22G2 to consider the renewal, amendment, termination, or other action concerning a lease of municipal property.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vittori,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Abstain?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Will there be action to follow?
No.
Thank you.
We will plan to reconvene and come back into session to officially close out the meeting at the end of the executive session. So until then, we will dismiss to executive session.
And we're physically going.
Motion to come back into regular session?
So moved.
Second.
Call roll. Ms. Nenny?
Here.
Ms. Vettori?
Here.
We're voting yes or no.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
And Mayor Condrey previously abstained, so I will count you as an abstention from this vote as well.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, and now we're back in regular session. You indicated you wanted to.
Yep. So just for the record, I didn't mention it before we went to executive session, but I refrained from attending the executive session due to what do we call it? Ohio Ethics Commission advisory opinion based on my affiliation with Start Skydiving, and I should not participate in any executive sessions dealing with Start Skydiving or its lease. So I did not participate at all, just for the record. And I think we have nothing further on this agenda for this evening. So with that, we will adjourn until December 15th at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers and also virtually. So until then, blue skies over Middletown.
Thank you.